Let's take a look at Michael F. Florio's Week 12 waiver wire targets. Take us through your list for the week.
Yeah, Cam Newton is still available in over half of NFL.com leagues. That needs to change. He was a top scoring quarterback this week and gets a great matchup next week. Tua and Tyrod Taylor are two other options I think could be picked up as streaming options, especially Taylor for this week against the Jets. Devonta Freeman was still the Ravens' lead back, even with Latavius Murray back. Then you see Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman there. That's because Michael Carter exited with an ankle injury. It's potentially a week where those two could be the lead back for the Jets. Hilliard there just because of all the volume he saw. And then David Johnson and Rex Burkhead each had double-digit touches this week, and they get the best matchup for running backs against the Jets. And Jeff Wilson Jr., just because of the volume he saw, I think he's worth rostering with the bench spot there. And then looking at some receivers, Elijah Moore, I mean, this guy just keeps going off right now. Darnell Mooney had 16 targets. I know Allen Robinson was out, but volume like that cannot be ignored. If those two are still available in your league, which they are in over half of NFL.com leagues, I think you need to get them. A small text here for Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Nick Westbrook-Akini. They both just keep getting volume, or at least they saw big volume this week, so take a shot on them. Cedric Wilson could be the Cowboys wide receiver 2 this week. And then some tight ends. Adam Troutman, I know it was against the Eagles, but he continues to see consistent volume. Austin Hooper has seen volume since Odell has left. And then Evan Ingram, I know he hasn't even played yet. It doesn't matter. He gets the Eagles next week. You stream tight ends against Philly.
So a couple things about your list. One, you talk about Michael Carter exiting with an ankle injury. I completed a trade with our pal Matt Okada where I got Michael Carter, and then he immediately gets hurt. So that sort of stinks. Also, all three of the tight ends you have on your waiver wire list, just a sneak peek there. If they are going to make it into the sleepers column. And the one that I'm worried the most about is Evan Ingram, because I think at least twice, maybe 3 times this year, I have put him in the sleepers column, and he has done absolutely nothing. So I'm ready to get my clown grease paint out again and paint my face like a clown when I again put Evan Ingram in the sleepers column, and he inevitably gives me nothing.
If he does that again against the Eagles, I will never start him again.
Seriously, that's it. Like, this is the hard line we're taking, Evan Ingram. If you can't get it done against the Eagles, it is a wrap. That's it. All right. Couple names, though, worth talking here. Devonta Freeman, and you talked about the fact that he's still got a lot of work, even with Latavius Murray back and healthy. That's good news for Devonta Freeman. For those of us who maybe are stashing Latavius Murray or trying to use him as a flex, does this mean we should be a little bit worried about him now?
I think so. Like, Freeman played well in his absence, and my thinking was, all right, it'll still be a split, but Murray will take back like the heavy share of that. That wasn't the case, and what worries me even more is Devonta Freeman saw all of the 6 targets yesterday in the passing game for Freeman. So I think Freeman is the lead back in Baltimore. I think Murray saw enough volume where you could continue to hold on to him, but I would not be starting him anytime soon until we see him take over that lead role again.
Yeah, the targets are definitely the big thing there, too, for Devonta Freeman. I mean, I would have said coming into the year that if I was going to pick a back, I think it'd be Devonta Freeman. It just seems like he still has a little more left than Latavius Murray. And at least if yesterday is any indication, maybe the Ravens start to think so, too. Tyrod Taylor, a big surprise in terms of his fantasy production yesterday against the Tennessee Titans. And, you know, look, there's not a lot in the Texans offense to get excited about. But this week, Tyrod has the Jets. I mean, you talked about it in terms of Houston's running backs with David Johnson and Rex Burkhead. But what about the quarterback? Is he worth a start, maybe a DFS start against the Jets this week?
I think so, especially in DFS. Like, I'm not going to start him in a seasonal over like one of my studs or something like that. But if you're streaming, I think he's a strong streaming option because the Jets struggle mightily, like by far the worst team at stopping the run. Well, luckily, Tyrod Taylor can run, so maybe they use him more this week as an extension of the running game. He had the 2 rushing touchdowns this past week, which we know his rushing ability just gives him a pretty safe floor and a higher ceiling in fantasy. So I like him as a streaming option this week.
All right, Tyrod or Andy Dalton?
I would go with Taylor there.
Yeah, same, because again, the rushing upside is probably what makes the difference for me in that one, even though both of them have pretty good matchups. All right, so if we're looking at Week 12 waivers and you have the top waiver priority or you still have a bunch of fab burning a hole in your fake pockets, where are you going with it?
For me, the top ad is Elijah Moore. This guy has got 6 targets or more in 5 straight games, double-digit fantasy points in each, and is twice now top 27. And he's done it with a revolving door of quarterbacks for the Jets. 4 different quarterbacks he's caught passes for in this stretch. But Elijah Moore, I know you're going to talk about him as well, Marcus. If Elijah Moore is already rostered, or you have, maybe you don't have the top waiver wire priority, I think Darnell Mooney needs to be prioritized this week as well. 16 targets. He's consistently getting volume as of late. Him and Justin Fields have already shown a connection. So those 2 guys are my top targets this week.
I do like Mooney, especially because, going back to preseason, he was every fantasy analyst's favorite sleeper wide receiver. And it hasn't worked out, but I don't think it's because of Darnell Mooney. But I am still sort of leaning toward Elijah Moore just because the volume has been so great. And even though the Jets keep saying we're not going to do anything special to try to get him more opportunity, that those opportunities seem to have found their way to him anyway. Plus, the way the Jets defense is, negative game scripts seem to be a thing regularly for them, so that means more chances to throw the football. And regardless of who it is, if it's Zach Wilson or Mike White or Joe Flacco or Ken O'Brien or Chad Pennington, I don't really care who the Jets quarterback is. They're throwing the ball to Elijah Moore, and that is really all I care about. So there you go. So either way,
he
you
had
got
a good game with Joe Flacco.
He did have a good game with Joe Flacco. Look,
quarterback proof.
Say what you want about Joe Flacco. He at least is a veteran who has kind of been through a whole lot of things. So, playing behind a bad offensive line, I'm sure he knows how to figure it out. Whereas, Zach Wilson and Mike White still need a little more seasoning in that area.